Nah, don't worry, I'm fine.
Okay,
well, you see our badges.
I need to see. Is your full name on that badge?
No,
I'd like to see something with your full name, or I'm not going to talk to
I
you.
prefer you not to broadcast it.
This will be going online as soon as you walk away.
Well, all I want to do is talk to you about a post that was made, and if you
Well,
happen to be the one that made the post.
I want to talk to you about you guys coming here. Say you make a salary of, I don't know what, low 100K? You guys making six figures? Factor in 50% expenses, overhead, maybe 100% expenses. Talking about burning a couple $100 an hour just here, let alone all the time you guys are spending to investigate something that you know is not against the law, right? Like you're familiar with. So then why would you come?
Because we wanted to make sure that there weren't any.
No, you're coming because you're part of a regime that does this kind of thing when you know laws aren't being broken, and that's an embarrassment, man. Didn't you guys read the Constitution? Do you not believe in America? Like, how do you do your jobs and go home?
We appreciate it.
You're walking away because nothing we did is against the law, and you guys are heads that try to act like bullies. And I hope you go home and are embarrassed. You can't even say your name on camera because you know that what you're doing is embarrassing. You know Americans that believe in the Constitution think you're laughable. And you go home and you think about what you did today. Go home and think about it, you cowards. Drive away. Drive away. You're not welcome. You should be embarrassed. Embarrassing. You guys are embarrassing.
So notice that when these so-called FBI guys, when they say, "Will you please stop recording?" Jeremy says, "Nope, not going to. It's a First Amendment right." Yeah, he's correct. They can't stop him from recording. They can't stop you from recording. You can just keep on recording. And if they try to make you stop recording, if they assault you, well, then, that's assault by a federal agent or whoever these people are, and they will face criminal prosecutions for that act. But you can tell these guys are just there to intimidate. But the most important thing for you to do if you're ever interacting with people like this, who are, again, not even sworn law enforcement agents, is keep on recording. Hold them accountable for what they're doing, for their lies, their deception, their intimidation. Now, you notice these guys backed off quickly because it was being recorded. Now, see, if they're not being recorded, they get belligerent. They start getting really arrogant and threatening, and their job is to run around intimidating people. Again, these are earmarks of an authoritarian regime that is in a state of collapse and is panicked about not being able to control the speech of people. And so they run around trying to intimidate everybody. The other thing that's notable about this is that Jeremy persistently and repeatedly asks for the name and ID of these individuals. And you notice that at least one of them refuses to give it. So any actual sworn officer is required to show you their badge and their badge number and their name on their ID. That's a requirement, and that includes officials with EPA or FDA or ATF or DEA or anybody. You can always demand their identification, and they can't just flip it out real quick, because sometimes they try to do just flip out a badge. Flip. Oh, I showed it to you. No, you didn't. You flipped it. That was a hand flip. You didn't show me your badge in a way that a human person can read it. So don't let them get away with that. It's number one, keep recording. Number two, demand their name, their badge number. And then number three, do not be intimidated by people who pretend to be FBI agents when they are not. They're not real FBI agents. They're just, it's kind of like Joe Biden, the pretend president. He was never elected. Well, these guys were never sworn. They're not sworn officers. Now, the other thing to realize about these tyrants, whether they claim to be FBI, but they're not, or they claim to be regulators, or they claim to be, like I said, ATF, DEA, FDA, EPA, USDA, whatever, they are all bullies. They are all at war with the American people. They see the American people as their enemies. And they all use intimidation tactics. That's what they're trained to do. That's what they will inflict upon you. They are there as terrorists. They're there to inflict psychological terrorism, fear, intimidation upon the American psyche. That's what they are doing. And this guy, Jeremy, just calls them out. Says, shame on you. How do you live with yourself? Your job is to run around intimidating people? Yeah, shame on you. And this video that I just showed you, as I'm looking at it, it's got almost 15 million views on Twitter alone from one account. This thing's going to get seen by 50, 100 million people worldwide, and they're going to see what a clown show of pathetic tyrants the FBI has become in America. The FBI has lost all credibility that it once had. And remember, I know retired FBI agents who are good men, and in their day, the FBI did important work and they operated with a sense of morality. They had rules, guidelines, ethics. They would go after the worst criminals they could find. They weren't driven by pure politics, but those days are long gone. Long gone. Today, the FBI is the Stasi. They're the secret police that run around investigating people, intimidating people, and arresting people if they can find some crime, even a small little crime, or even a non-crime like they did with the J6 people. They fabricated, they upcharged them with all these ridiculous charges that did not apply. Like this law that was created based on Enron's accounting scandals, and Enron was cooking their books to try to interfere with the government criminal investigation of Enron's accounting crimes. And it was so egregious that a new law was created that said, well, if you interfere with a government function, then that's another felony. Well, the J6 people, who were peaceful protesters for the most part, I know there were a few exceptions of some people who smashed windows or whatever, or stole a lectern, or, kind of minor things like clownish type of petty crimes, you could say, a little bit of property damage, like nothing major, but they got charged with these felonies for, quote, interfering with a government function, a law created for Enron. And this was misapplied to the J6 protesters. And that's how they got overcharged with multiple felonies, and in some cases sentenced to many, many years in federal prison when they had done nothing wrong. Nothing. And you know as well as I that if it had been Trump in the White House, and if it had been left-wing protesters doing the exact same thing, the left-wing media would be celebrating it, applauding it, and saying it's peaceful, it's peaceful. So, of course, it's obvious that the FBI, the DOJ, federal agencies, they have all been politicized and weaponized against the American people. And any of you listening in those agencies, don't blame me for this. This is the way the American people now see you. If you want to change America's perception of what you're doing, you need to change your behavior. Stop being so politicized. Stop running around trying to intimidate people and silence people and throwing people in jail just because of their political beliefs. You want to get America to trust you again? Then start acting with integrity as an unbiased, non-politicized agency or law enforcement group. That's the only way. You have to earn back the public trust in your institution. You have to earn it back. You can't demand it, and you can't force it. You can't coerce it. You have to earn it. And right now, there's nobody in any federal agency that I can see that is earning any trust from the American people. They aren't earning it. They're burning it. They're burning the trust because they're doing nothing but weaponizing their institutions against the people. And more people are coming to realize that by the millions. And this is going to actually help get Trump elected. This abuse of power. Trump and RFK Jr. need to get in there and just start firing people. And I mean, 80% of the federal government needs to be fired in the first week. Yeah, 80% gone. Oh, and what do you know? The budget is magically balanced here, too. That's amazing. You fire 80% of the federal government, you will lose nothing in productivity because those people don't get anything done anyway. You will actually set free businesses in America to build things, to make things, to create things, even creating jobs. If you fire 80% of the federal government, you will see a golden age of economic prosperity unleashed across America because it's the government that's interfering with productivity and progress in this country. The government is too bloated, way too many people on its payroll. They're all agents that are weaponized against the people, and they're going to run out of money anyway on their own. They're going to blow out the dollar, and at that point, there's going to be no actual money remaining for the government anyway. The whole thing's going to collapse like the Soviet Union in 1991. You're going to have a total collapse of the federal government when the currency collapses. And all those people are going to be out of work and their pensions will be zeroed out anyway. And then what are they going to do? Cry victims? Yeah, of course. No, you're the ones victimizing America. These federal workers, they are creating their own personal hell, working for a system that is destroying the currency, destroying liberty and freedom, and overthrowing America with this invasion. And, these people that work for federal agencies, don't they realize that their country is being destroyed by the work that they're doing? It's like, don't you live in America too? Don't you want a safe neighborhood? Don't you want currency that has value? Don't you want economic prosperity for the country? Don't you want actual freedom? Don't you want the Bill of Rights? So why are you working for a system that is destroying all those things? And this is what more and more people are realizing, like Jeremy Kauffman there in that video. People are waking up every single day and people have had enough. Now, Jeremy posted, he says, people sometimes ask me how I have the confidence to do this. And the answer is that I practiced. Practice asserting your rights in minor situations and it will continue to get easier. For example, do it at DUI checkpoints or at border control when re-entering the U.S. He says, I'd like to thank Carla Guricki for firmly establishing the right to always film in New Hampshire. Carla, along with hundreds of others, of other early Free State New Hampshire movers, formed a culture of First Amendment activism. Culture is how you win. See? Now, another person posting comments to this post says, Law Enforcement 101 for civilians. He says, this info was beaten into me by the fathers of my two best friends growing up. One of them was LAPD for 21 years. The other was a 20-year U.S. Customs agent. Number one, a badge isn't ID. So they show you a badge, it's not an ID. Unless you're in the act of being detained, you have every right to demand they show you their ID, which should have their picture, their name, their agency information, and expiration date. Officers of any agency, local, state, or federal, that refuse to show you their ID, they are refusing because they don't have legal standing to do what they're doing at the moment. And your presence is optional. See, they just hope you will stand there and talk with them. You do not need to agree to do that. Never answer questions to law enforcement officers unless you're the one who initiated the call to law enforcement, i.e., if you're the one who filed the complaint. Even then, the moment they start asking questions that might incriminate you, You're under no obligation to answer and should not answer. Any law enforcement officer is never there to prove your innocence, only to establish your guilt. Never be afraid to voice your knowledge and your rights, but always do it politely. Be firm and repeat it over and over again. And then finally, if they seem nervous about you recording them, or if they're asking you to stop, it's because they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. That is 100% correct. Oh, by the way, Hillary Clinton has also just gone on MSNBC, and she said that Americans who speak or post any form of, quote, misinformation, which would be anything criticizing NATO or criticizing the U.S. government or criticizing the vaccine industry or any of that, you should be arrested and jailed, she says. And then she says, Trump's a dictator. It's like, have you looked in the mirror, you clown? I mean, what a shameless authoritarian clown show this woman has become. I mean, to just sit there and say that they demand the arrest of people who speak out against their regime. I mean, you can see they absolutely want to obliterate the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 10th, the 14th. I mean, these tyrants, their ship is sinking. They're becoming desperate. They know that people waking up, it can't be stopped. The red pill is spreading like crazy. Their censorship regime has not worked. There are many, many platforms where people can speak freely, including our own Brighteon.social, Brighteon.com for videos, Brighteon.io for decentralized speech. They're losing the war. They're losing the currency wars. They're losing the war with Russia. They're losing the war in the Middle East. They're losing the war on technology. I mean, did you see? Let me read this for you. I forgot. Here it is. Egypt is going to replace F-16s with